My name is Ethan Hayes and I am screwed. I'd woken up in a king-size bed, big enough for 5 of me, the digital clock on the nightstand flashing 7 a.m. A fragment of unfamiliar memory exploded in my brain, telling me one impossible thing. I'd woken up inside a novel. Specifically, I was the ultimate simp in some cheesy corporate romance, the disposable side character whose only purpose was to lose the girl to the hero. And my fiancée, she was the book's primary antagonist, the Ice Queen villainess whose life mission was to make the heroine miserable before the hero inevitably ruined her and her family. Her name was Sophia Sterling. According to the plot, today was my first day on the job as a professional doormat. My mission was to show up at Sophia's penthouse at 7:30 a.m. sharp with her favorite breakfast, fresh pressed green juice flown in from California and an artisanal avocado toast. Yeah, screw that, I muttered to the empty room. Juice flown in from California? I drink coffee that's been sitting on a burner for 3 hours. Still, I had to play the part. The plot was God, and I had to follow the script if I wanted to keep my head down, stay alive, and wait for the hero and heroine to fall in love. Then, hopefully, Sophia would get sick of me and kick me to the curb with a nice severance package. I practiced in the mirror, working on a smile that was the perfect blend of pathetic and devoted, with a hint of infatuation. Yep, that was the look. But her favorite breakfast? Not a chance. My goal was to get her to hate me fast, so I left the building, walked down to the corner, and bought 2 glazed donuts from a street cart, the kind that leave a grease stain on the bag, and a large coffee. I made sure to tell the guy to put extra sugar in it. The book mentioned offhand that Sophia Sterling, the untouchable corporate queen, despised cheap, greasy street food more than anything. Perfect. I arrived at her door, breakfast in hand, and rang the bell at precisely 7:30 a.m. The door opened. A face devoid of any emotion greeted me. She was beautiful, but it was an aggressive, intimidating beauty, like a priceless vase in a museum that you'd never dare touch. She wore a silk robe, her hair tied up messily, a few strands framing her face, lending a sliver of warmth to her otherwise frosty aura. This was Sophia Sterling. I immediately plastered on my practiced smile, holding the greasy paper bag out to her. My voice was so soft it was practically a whisper. "Sophia, good morning. I brought you breakfast." Her eyes landed on the stained bag, and her brow furrowed just enough for me to notice. I was ecstatic. Yes, that's it. That's the look of disgust. Despise me, hate me, yell at me, throw the donuts in my face, and tell me to get lost. Mission accomplished. Sophia opened her mouth to speak, but then she froze. She heard a voice, a clear, cheerful voice that was the polar opposite of the pathetic, fawning expression on the man in front of her. Damn, that Ice Queen glare is something else. Too bad she's the villainess and not too bright, either, falling for a two-faced phony like Kayla Vance. Just tell me to scram so I can go back to my life of doing absolutely nothing. Sophia blinked. She glanced around the hallway. It was empty. Where did that voice come from? Was she hearing things? Seeing her hesitation, I pushed the bag a little closer. Sophia, is something wrong? I got it especially for you. Give it to me. She cut me off, her hand reaching out and taking the greasy bag. I just stood there. That's not how the script went. She didn't yell at me. She actually took the breakfast. What the hell? Did she not sleep well last night? Did she lose her sense of taste? No. The book says she should have thrown this straight in the trash at first sight. Hearing the bewildered voice in her head, Sophia looked from the bag to my face, which was now a perfect mask of disappointment and hurt. A bizarre, unprecedented feeling washed over her. She didn't say another word, just a quiet, "Thank you," before closing the door. I stood in the hallway for a full minute, my hands empty. "Thank you?" She said thank you to me? Great. It was day 1, and I'd already broken the plot. My heart pounding with uncertainty, I drove the original Ethan's flashy Maserati to the Sterling Corporation headquarters. As Sophia's fiancé, I held the pointless title of special assistant to the COO. It was a fancy way of saying I was a human ornament who could wander around the office freely. My desk was in a glass-walled cubicle right outside her office, a perfect vantage point for her to, order me around at a moment's notice. I'd barely sat down when a man in a tailored suit, looking impossibly handsome and slick, walked over. Caleb Vance, the hero of the novel. He was holding 2 cups of coffee, a warm, charming smile on his face. He walked straight past me and pushed open Sophia's office door. Sophia, I saw you didn't drive this morning. Did Ethan give you a lift here? Have some coffee to get you going. His voice was just loud enough for me to hear. I rolled my eyes. Here we go. The phony hero makes his grand entrance. Seriously, this guy's acting is Oscar-worthy. Look at his eyes. They're practically screaming, I'm going to bankrupt your family and take over your company. How does Sophia not see this? It's scary what a pretty face can do to a woman's common sense. Inside the office, Sophia was about to start on her files. She hadn't touched the donuts, and her stomach felt a little off, but what was more unsettling was the voice that kept popping in her head, and now it was back. She looked up at Caleb. He was the business partner her father had chosen for her. Young, successful, and sophisticated, a golden boy in everyone's eyes. She'd always thought he was a good choice, too. But today, listening to Ethan's inner commentary, she looked at Caleb's perfect smile and thought she could see, for the first time, a flicker of greed hiding behind it. Thanks. She took the coffee but set it aside without drinking it. Caleb didn't seem to mind. He placed a folder on her desk. Sophia, this is the final proposal for the South Bronx Development Project. I've optimized a few things. You should take a look. We need to sign it. The longer we wait, the more variables come into play. I sat outside, my ears perked. Here it was, the first major plot trap. This is it. This is the deal that screws her over in the book. The company loses a fortune, and Caleb swoops in like a savior, investing his own capital in exchange for 15% of the company's shares. You idiot. Say no. Don't sign it. If you sign that, you're one step closer to bankruptcy. I was screaming internally, but on the outside, I was staring intently at my phone, playing a game of solitaire. Sophia's fingers rested on the folder. Ethan's frantic internal screaming was a stark contrast to Caleb's gentle persuasion. She suddenly felt exhausted. For years, she had operated like a machine, all for the sake of the family business. Everyone around her, including her own father, told her that Caleb was the best choice. But Ethan's inner voice was like a stone tossed into the still waters of her mind, sending out ripples. As obnoxious as the voice was, it was also shockingly honest. She picked up the folder, flipped through it, then closed it and pushed it back toward Caleb. I need more time to think about this project. For the first time, the smile on Caleb's face faltered. Sophia, we've been tracking this project for a long time. I said I need to think about it. Her voice was quiet, but it carried an authority that was impossible to question. Caleb's expression shifted for a second before he smoothed it back into his usual pleasant mask. He picked up the folder and nodded. All right, I respect your decision. But, Sophia, sometimes you need to trust the judgment of professionals and not be influenced by irrelevant people. His eyes flickered meaningfully toward my glass cubicle. I caught his gaze and immediately sat up straighter, put my phone away, and adopted an innocent expression that said, I don't know anything. I'm just a handsome idiot. After Caleb left, Sophia sat in her chair, motionless for a long time. She looked at the man in the glass cubicle who was sitting ramrod straight, but whose phone screen clearly showed the victory animation for a completed game of solitaire. For the first time, she felt a flicker of genuine curiosity about her simp fiancé. Just before quitting time, the intercom on my desk buzzed. Drive me home. The voice was as cold as ever, completely flat. I jumped to my feet and practically sprinted to the parking garage to get the car. Well, what do you know? She's actually willing to ride in my car. I thought she hated the Maserati, said it was too flashy, and lowered her class. I chatted away in my head as I drove. Sophia sat in the passenger seat, her eyes closed as if she were resting, but in reality, she was listening intently to the broadcast. So, did Mr. Vance upset you today? I asked carefully, playing the part of the concerned fiancé. No, she replied flatly. Oh, well, I think he's a pretty great guy. Successful, ambitious, a good match for you. I said, my heart bleeding with every word. A good match, my ass. One's a two-faced snake, and the other's a love-drunk fool. They should get married and leave everyone else alone. Just give me a fat check to break this engagement, and I'll disappear from your lives forever. $1 million? No, 5 million. The sterlings are loaded. What's 5 million to them? The corner of Sophia's mouth twitched uncontrollably. 5 million? The nerve. She opened her eyes, turned to look at me, and changed the subject. I remember you mentioned wanting to invest in a VR gaming project. My heart skipped a beat. Here it was, the next trap in the book. The idiot Ethan, trying to prove he wasn't useless, was desperately looking for a project to invest in. Caleb helpfully suggested a VR gaming company, claiming it was the next big thing. Ethan bought it hook, line, and sinker. He begged Sophia for the money, and she, wanting to get him off her back and look generous in front of Caleb, gave it to him. Of course, the project was a total scam. The money vanished, and Ethan became the laughingstock of their entire social circle. It's happening. The plot is trying to kill me. This project is going to lose everything down to the last penny. I have to convince her not to do it. No, wait, I can't break character. I have to act super enthusiastic, make her think I'm a brainless moron, and then she'll definitely refuse me. I took a deep breath and put on a look of pure fanaticism. Yes, Sophia, you remembered. I've been researching it, and it's going to be huge. The metaverse, you know? If we get in now, we'll be the next Jeff Bezos. I rambled on, hyping up the project like it was the second coming. Sophia just watched me quietly, her expression unreadable. Come on, give me that look you give morons. Then tell me coldly, Ethan, can you please be more mature? Yes, that's the line. I looked at her expectantly, but all Sophia did was nod. Sounds interesting. I blinked. Interesting? What part of that sounded interesting? Did you even hear what I was saying? You're buying this? Oh, no. Is she actually going to invest? There goes my $5 million severance package. Panicked, I tried to backtrack. But the initial investment is pretty big, and the risk is, it's also really high. Sophia watched my anxious flailing and suddenly found it amusing. He was desperately trying to sell on the surface, but internally he was about to have a heart attack. She leaned back against the seat and said calmly, money isn't an issue. If you believe in it, then go for it. Have your project manager bring the business plan to my office tomorrow. Then she closed her eyes, ignoring me for the rest of the ride. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. Lady, are you reading the wrong script? I'm the useless side character. You're the villainous. We're supposed to be at each other's throats until the righteous hero takes us both down. Why are you suddenly being so supportive? This is illogical. This is unscientific. This is making me really nervous. Sophia's eyelashes fluttered. Supportive? She hadn't realized it herself, but since that morning, her cold, calculated decision-making processes had started to go haywire, all because of this human pop-up commentary machine next to her. 3 days later, the Sterling family hosted a corporate gala. This was a major turning point in the novel. At this event, Caleb was supposed to publicly humiliate me with a complex business question, making me look like a complete idiot. Then he would step in and save the day, impressing Sophia and all the elders, highlighting his brilliance and my incompetence. I was ready. Tonight, my only job was to make a fool of myself. I wore a flashy white suit, my hair slicked back with too much gel, and wandered through the ballroom with a glass of champagne, smiling like a prize-winning idiot. Come on, humiliate me and get it over with. I just want to be a useless rich layabout. Don't make me actually work for a living. Once this engagement is over, I'll take my 10 million, and buy a beach house. I'll throw parties every day and live the good life. Sophia, stunning in a black evening gown, held my arm as we stood at the center of the room. She could hear my inner celebration loud and clear, and looking at the lost in wonder expression on my face, she felt a headache coming on. Right on cue, Caleb approached with a glass of wine. He made small talk with Sophia before turning to me with that same warm smile. Ethan, haven't seen you around the office much. Working on something big. I immediately stammered. No, not really. Just looking at things. Is that so? Caleb's voice was casual but loud enough for those nearby to hear. I heard you were looking into that plot of land on the west side. It's a complicated piece of real estate, involves several different companies. Even Mr. Sterling found it tricky. I was wondering what your take on it was. Here we go. This was it. That land was a minefield. Anyone who touched it would get burned. In the book, I tried to act smart, spouted a bunch of nonsense, and got verbally destroyed by Caleb. I was just about to open my mouth and repeat the same stupid lines from the novel, but then Sophia spoke. The grip on my arm tightened. Her voice was cool and clear, carrying across the room. Ethan is my most important advisor. He was the first one to warn me about the risks associated with the West Side property. We've already decided to pass on it. The entire area fell silent. Everyone's eyes were on me, filled with shock, disbelief, and confusion. Caleb's smile was frozen on his face. I was completely dumbfounded. Huh? Did I say that? When? I don't remember saying that. Oh, wait. I think I was in her office the other day, bored out of my mind, and I was looking at the file and complaining about it in my head. How did she know? A coincidence? It has to be a coincidence. She must have had her own doubts and just used me as an excuse. I was frantically trying to rationalize it. Caleb looked furious. He wasn't about to let some useless idiot steal his spotlight. He took a deep breath and lobbed another grenade. Well, if you've passed on the West Side project, then the partnership with that Nordic venture firm, Aurora Capital, must be Sterling Corp's top priority. I hear their representative is in town. Sophia, this deal is critical. There's no room for error. This Aurora Capital was a firm Caleb had introduced. It looked great on paper, but it was actually a vulture fund specializing in hostile takeovers. In the book, this was the deal that crippled the Sterling Corporation as Caleb and Aurora worked together to steal their core technology. Alarm bells were screaming in my head. Oh, this is even worse than the land deal. This isn't a partnership, it's inviting a wolf into the house. Aurora Capital's background is dirty as hell. They're notorious in Europe for shady business, and they're about to be investigated by Interpol in 3 months. Anyone who partners with them now is jumping into a volcano. Sophia, you idiot, wake up. I was stomping my feet in my mind, but my face still wore that dopey, agreeable smile as I nodded along. Mr. Vance is so right. Sophia listened to my internal tirade, a flicker of amusement in her eyes that no one else saw. She looked at Caleb, her tone as placid as if she were discussing the weather. Oh, I forgot to tell you. We've already terminated all contact with Aurora Capital. What? Caleb couldn't maintain his composure any longer. Sophia gave him a cool glance. Then she turned her head, looking directly at me with an expression I couldn't quite decipher. Because Ethan said they seemed shady. Boom. My brain went completely blank. If the first time was a coincidence, what about the second? The way the other guests were looking at me had changed from amusement to a kind of awe, searching respect you'd give a hidden genius. I stood there, frozen, a chill running up my spine. She can't actually hear what I'm thinking, can she? I practically fled the gala and locked myself in my room, where I spent the entire night replaying every single interaction I'd had with Sophia. Her bizarre acceptance of the donuts, her baseless rejection of Caleb's golden project, her using my internal rants as her rationale for 2 major business decisions at the gala. A terrifying thought began to form in my mind. I had to test it. The next morning, with dark circles under my eyes, I showed up at Sophia's penthouse again. When she opened the door, I put on my best simp face, my voice dripping with concern. Sophia, you look tired. The gala must have been exhausting. Simultaneously, I issued my first internal command. Okay, experiment number 1. Get her to make me a cup of coffee. The Ice Queen CEO making coffee for her simp fiancé. If this happens, I'll be 50% convinced. Sophia's gaze lingered on my face for 2 seconds before she turned and walked back inside without a word. I followed her in. She went straight to the kitchen, opened the espresso machine, ground the beans, and brewed a cup. The entire process was smooth and efficient. A few minutes later, a steaming cup of black coffee was placed on the table in front of me. My hand started to shake. No way. Maybe she just wanted coffee for herself and made me a cup, too? Yeah, that has to be it. I picked up the cup and took a sip, burning my tongue. Experiment number 2. Level up the difficulty. Make her do something she would absolutely never, ever do. Something outside her entire frame of reference, like wearing a pair of pink high heels. Yes, pink. As far as I know, this woman's closet contains nothing but black, white, and gray, not even a single colored thread. I sent out the second command from the privacy of my mind. Sophia sat on the couch, watching me flail around after burning my mouth. She picked up her phone, unlocked it, and opened a shopping app. Her fingers flew across the screen. A few minutes later, she placed an order, paid, and tossed her phone aside, picking up a document as if nothing had happened. I waited, my anxiety mounting for the rest of the morning. Just as I was about to give up and chalk it all up to a massive coincidence, The doorbell rang. A courier in a crisp uniform from Saks Fifth Avenue stood there, holding a designer shoebox. Sophia signed for it and closed the door. Then, right in front of me, she opened the box. Inside was a pair of offensively pink, crystal-encrusted killer stilettos. I forgot how to breathe. Sophia took the shoes out, slipped off her slippers, and revealed her small, perfect feet. Then, as naturally as if she were putting on sneakers, she slid them into the heels I'd only ever seen on a Barbie doll. She stood up, suddenly half a head taller than me. She walked across the hardwood floor, the pink heels making a sharp clicking sound with each step. Every click felt like it was hammering directly on my heart. Finally, she stopped in front of me, looking down at me, her face a perfect blank mask. "Well," she asked, "how do they look?" My entire worldview shattered into a million pieces. I stared at her, my mouth hanging open, unable to form a single word. I was petrified, literally petrified. After confirming that Sophia could in fact read my mind, I went into a 3-day-long self-imposed exile. I didn't go to the office, I didn't see her, I didn't even dare think about her. It was terrifying. It was like I was standing naked in front of her 24/7. All my stupid, weird, and wild thoughts were broadcast directly into her brain. My whole persona was a lie. She must think I'm a complete psycho. Is she going to have me killed to shut me up? On the 4th day, as I was contemplating starving to death, Sophia called. "Get to the office." It was an order. I dragged myself to the Sterling building, my legs feeling like jelly. As I walked into her office, Sophia was sitting behind her desk, reading a file. She was dressed in a normal black business suit, her face set in its usual frosty expression. You'd never know she was the same woman who had worn those pink stilettos. She pushed a contract across the desk toward me. Caleb's new proposal. "Take a look." I picked it up, and my heart started hammering again. It was another one of Caleb's traps, a stock swap agreement that looked good on the surface, but was full of loopholes. If she signed it, a key subsidiary of Sterling Corp would be completely gutted. What do I do? If I just tell her the contract is bad, I'm admitting I've been acting this whole time, that I'm not a real simp. Would she get mad and throw me out the window? We're on the 38th floor. But if I lie and say the contract is good, her company goes down, and based on the law of disposable side characters, if she's ruined, I'm definitely not getting away clean. I might even get framed as an accomplice and end up in jail. I need a plan, a way to warn her without breaking character. I racked my brain, sweat beading on my forehead. Sophia just watched me, not rushing me. Finally, I looked up, my face arranged in the simp's signature expression of earnest humility. "Sophia, this contract, it looks really good." I began, validating Caleb first. Then I changed my tone, injecting a note of fear and concern. But I just have this feeling, isn't Caleb's plan a little too risky? I'm worried you'll get hurt." I looked down, avoiding her eyes, my fingers nervously picking at the edge of the contract. I'm not smart enough to understand all this complicated stuff. I just couldn't sleep last night, so I was looking up some things online, and look, these case studies, they seem kind of similar to our situation. I pulled a crumpled piece of paper from my pocket. On it were printouts of several corporate fraud cases I'd found during my all-nighter, with key points that mirrored Caleb's traps circled in red pen. I handed her the paper, my voice barely a whisper. "Don't laugh at me. I know I'm just being paranoid." Sophia took the paper, which was slightly damp from my sweaty palms. She looked at the circled sections, then back up at my face, which looked like it was on the verge of tears. She heard the scream in my head. "Lady, please play along. I'm just trying to survive." And then, for the very first time, the corner of her tightly controlled mouth curved into the faintest, almost imperceptible smile. "Okay," she said. "I'll listen to you. You little idiot, you finally figured out a way to tell the truth." I couldn't hear her thoughts, but when I saw that ghost of a smile, I felt the knot in my stomach finally unwind. I let out a long sigh of relief. I just walked back from the edge of a cliff. From that day on, an unspoken, incredibly strange understanding formed between us. With my inner voice as a superpower, Sophia and I became an unstoppable team. Caleb Vance found that his life had suddenly been switched to expert mode. He tried to short one of Sterling Corp's tech subsidiaries on the stock market. A day before, I'd already mentally walked through his entire plan, from his funding sources to his trader's habits. Here we go, slimy Caleb is making his move. Target is Astrotech. He'll pay off a few trashy finance bloggers to spread rumors about a flaw in their core technology. Then, when the stock dips, he'll use that offshore shell fund of his to buy up shares on the cheap. Such a dirty player. Listening to my live commentary, Sophia called a press conference the next day. She presented Astrotech's newly filed patents and a government contract, both of which sent the stock soaring. It hit the daily limit up. All of Caleb's ammunition was wasted. Next, he tried to poach Sterling's core engineering team. 2 days before, I was at home, sighing dramatically in my head, mentally listing the names of the people he was targeting, the salaries and positions he was offering, and even the coffee shop where the meeting was supposed to happen. Hi, Mark from RD is about to get poached. That snake Caleb offered him triple his salary and a CTO title. Dr. Chun is a goner, too. Caleb is using a spot for his kid at that elite private school as bait. It's a low blow. Sophia, is your war chest big enough? If you don't give out some raises soon, you're going to be the captain of an empty ship. The next day, Sophia held a meeting with her key engineers, announced the formation of a new independent RD lab, and gave everyone a 100% raise in stock options. She also took care of Dr. Chen's son's school problem. Caleb's head of HR waited at the coffee shop all day and never saw a single soul. After a few more rounds like this, Caleb was bleeding money and losing his mind. He looked haggard, and the way he looked at me had changed from disdain to a deep, venomous suspicion. He couldn't figure out how Sophia was anticipating his every move, countering them with surgical precision. It was like he had a traitor in his inner circle. He started frantically investigating everyone around him. Meanwhile, I sat outside Sophia's office, sipping the coffee she made me, pretending to play solitaire while giving him some helpful hints in my head. Go on, investigate everyone. Fire your assistant, your secretary, your driver. I'll let you in on a little secret. Your driver, Dave, he's a spy for your biggest competitor, and your housekeeper, she spit in your soup last week. And so, Caleb's team began to fall apart at an astonishing rate. Watching him tear his hair out was the most fun I'd had in ages. That's what you get for being the hero. That's what you get for being better looking than me. Now you know who's really pulling the strings in this world, don't you? Just as I was basking in my own genius, Sophia's office door opened. She handed me a file, her expression unreadable. Your bonus for this quarter. I paid in advance. I opened it. Inside was a cashier's check for $5 million. I was stunned. Sophia glanced at me. Your inner drama, she said flatly, is very profitable. I just stared at her. Suddenly, having my mind read didn't seem so bad after all. The days of us teaming up to screw over Caleb flew by as he fumbled from one failure. From that day on, the dynamic between Sophia and me began to change. She was no longer just the untouchable Ice Queen CEO, and I wasn't so desperate to run away anymore. She started remembering things I'd only thought about, like a craving for a specific bakery's cheesecake, and I'd find it waiting for me in my car after work. She'd hear me mentally complaining about the plot of a TV show, and the next day a full dossier on the show's head writer would be on my desk with a note. You could probably do better. I got used to giving her mental status reports, sharing my thoughts and feelings. She never responded, but I knew she was listening. It was a strange and wonderful feeling, like having a soulmate who was permanently online. Then one day I got sick. Just a common cold, but it hit me hard. My head felt like it was full of concrete, and my throat was on fire. I wanted to call in sick and die peacefully in my bed, but I dragged myself to the office anyway. Can't stay home. I have a feeling Caleb is planning something big today, and I need to be there to provide live commentary. What if Sophia misses the broadcast and gets screwed over? I haven't even had a chance to spend my $5 million bonus yet. I stumbled into the office, and the moment I sat down, the room started spinning. A second later, the intercom buzzed. In here. I pushed the door open. Sophia was frowning at me. Why is your face so red? It's nothing, probably. Achoo. I let out a massive, body-rattling sneeze. She stood up, walked over, and placed the back of her hand on my forehead. Her skin was cool, a welcome relief against my burning fever. You're burning up, she stated. I'm fine. Really. Nothing a little water can't fix, I insisted. Holy crap, she's touching my forehead. She's actually touching me. Why are the Ice Queen's hands so soft? Oh God, my heart is racing. Am I actually falling for the villainess? No, no, no. Get a grip, Ethan. You're the disposable side character. She's the heroine's enemy. You two are doomed. Her hand paused for a fraction of a second. Her expression became complicated, a mix of frustration, concern, and something else I couldn't name. Go home, she said, her tone leaving no room for argument. No, I can't. I have to stay at the office. I'm taking you home. She cut me off, grabbing her car keys and my jacket from the coat rack, draping it over my shoulders. On the way, I drifted in and out of a feverish daze in the passenger seat. She's being so nice to me. Does she actually like me? No, that's impossible. I'm the simp sidekick. How could I end up with the villainess? As soon as Caleb is completely out of the picture, I still need to run, take the money, buy a private island, and never come back. I mumbled my escape plan in my delirium. Beside me, Sophia's hands tightened on the steering wheel. She glanced at my flushed face and heard me unconsciously muttering, "Sophia, don't sign it." In her own mind, she replied with a single word I couldn't hear, "Too late." Caleb was on the verge of a complete breakdown. He couldn't understand how Sophia knew his every move before he made it. He'd investigated everyone in his life, even hiring private investigators and hackers, but found nothing. It was like Sophia had developed a sixth sense, blocking him at every turn just moments before he acted. And all of it started when that useless fiancé of hers, Ethan, came into the picture. A single failure can make a man reflect. A series of inexplicable failures will make him obsessed. He became convinced that I held some secret. Maybe I had dirt on him, or maybe I had a secret genius advising me. After another disastrous investment wiped out the last of his liquid assets, Caleb's sanity finally snapped. He decided to solve his problem in the most primitive way possible. I was at home, recovering from my fever and sipping chicken soup that Sophia had sent over, happily scrolling through my phone and planning my future life of leisure. Suddenly, a news alert popped up. Local Tech Mobile. Caleb Vance under SEC investigation for suspected financial fraud across multiple companies. I nearly sprayed a mouthful of soup across the room. Whoa, already? The plot is accelerating. In the book, Caleb doesn't go down until the final act. Well, this is great news. The final boss is almost dead, which means it's time for this side character to collect his severance and get the hell out of here. I was excitedly planning my post-engagement life when a strange sense of unease crept over me. A cornered animal will lash out. What would a self-obsessed narcissist like Caleb do when he had nothing left to lose? I frantically searched my memory of the novel's plot. Nothing. In the book, Caleb was a villain, but he always maintained a veneer of civility. He never resorted to physical violence. But now, thanks to me, the plot was completely off the rails. Something's wrong. Very wrong. A guy like Caleb won't go down without a fight. What if he does something desperate, something illegal, like kidnapping? The thought terrified me. No way, right? This is a civilized society. But what if? His target would definitely be Sophia. He probably thinks she has the evidence against him. I have to warn her. But how? If I just tell her, she won't believe me. I'll have to send her a mental broadcast. I focused all my energy and started spamming her in my head. Danger, danger, danger. Sophia, be careful. Caleb might try to kidnap you. I repeat, this is not a drill. Caleb might try to kidnap you. He's lost his mind. Hire more bodyguards. Take an entire army with you when you leave the house. Sophia was in a board meeting, listening to her CFO's report. Suddenly, the frantic, siren-like voice exploded in her mind. Her expression hardened. She held up a hand, silencing the CFO. She picked up her phone and quickly typed out 2 messages. One was to her security firm, requesting additional agents for 24/7 protection, effective immediately. The other was to an old friend who was a high-ranking officer in the city's police department. With that done, she looked up, her face calm again. Continue, she told the CFO. But in her mind, she had already made a decision. If Caleb was really foolish enough to make a move, she would use this opportunity to destroy him completely, ensuring he could never be a threat again. She would let him walk right into her trap. Caleb moved faster than I'd expected. That evening, as Sophia was driving home from work, 2 cars boxed her in on a deserted stretch of road. Everything was going according to Sophia's plan. Caleb's men were professionals, but her new security detail was better. But then something went wrong. While her bodyguards were engaged with the other men, one of them slipped around the back and yanked open Sophia's car door, and I was sitting in the driver's seat. I had insisted on coming with her under the guise of protecting her. In reality, I was worried she hadn't taken my mental warning seriously and wanted to be there just in case. I have the worst luck. It's actually happening. I should have just stayed home. So much for my life of leisure. I wailed internally. The kidnapper was clearly after Sophia. He lunged across the car for her in the passenger seat. In that split second, I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was all the coffee she'd made me, or the cheesecake she'd bought, or the memory of her cool hand on my feverish forehead. Acting on pure instinct, I unbuckled my seat belt and threw myself in front of her. A searing pain shot through my back, like I'd been stabbed with a red-hot poker. I let out a choked cry and felt my body go limp. "Ethan," I heard Sophia's voice. For the first time ever, it was laced with panic. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Caleb's men scattered. He got out of the car behind us, his face pale and his eyes wild. He stared at Sophia, now shielded by her bodyguards, then at me, slumped over her. He screamed, "Why, Sophia? Tell me, how did you know my plan?" Sophia didn't answer him. She was looking at me, her eyes wide with fear. The police swarmed the scene, tackling Caleb and pinning him to the ground. He was still struggling, yelling at me. "It was you, Ethan. It had to be you. What did you do, you useless piece of trash?" I was in so much pain I could barely breathe. The air tasted like blood. I was draped over Sophia, and seeing the terror in her eyes, only one thought crossed my mind. Well, crap. I really owe her one now. This is a workplace injury, right? It counts, doesn't it? When I recover, maybe I can ask for a bigger severance package when we break up, like adding a zero to that 5 million. Hearing my dying words, Sophia looked at me, on the verge of passing out, but still trying to calculate a bigger payday, and she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. A tear escaped and fell onto my cheek. It was warm. My last thought before everything went black was, why is she crying? Is it because I'm about to die and she'll miss my running commentary? I spent 2 weeks in a hospital. The knife had missed any vital organs, thankfully. For those 2 weeks, Sophia canceled all her meetings and stayed by my side, never leaving. She peeled apples for me, fed me soup, and read me articles from the Wall Street Journal. Her face was still a mask of indifference, but the worry in her eyes was impossible to hide. I lay in bed, enjoying being waited on by a queen, but my resolve to escape only grew stronger. This was dangerous. If I stayed any longer, I'd get too comfortable and never want to leave. Caleb had been arrested with multiple charges against him. He'd be spending the rest of his life in prison. The main threat was gone. It was time for me to retire. The day I was discharged, Sophia came to pick me up herself. Back at her penthouse, I asked her to sit on the couch. I took a deep breath and stood before her. I summoned all my acting skills, putting on an expression that was a complex mix of gratitude, reluctance, and grim resolve. "Sophia, thank you for taking care of me. But now, with Caleb gone, I think it's time we ended our engagement." I looked down, my voice heavy with sorrow. "You're a wonderful woman, and you deserve someone better. I hope you find true happiness." I waited for her response. If this were a movie, she'd make a token effort to protest, then agree for my sake. She'd hand me a check, and we'd go our separate ways. Internally, I was already celebrating. Haha, freedom. I'm finally free. My beach house, my pool parties, my life of doing absolutely nothing. Here I come. I fought to keep from grinning as I watched her out of the corner of my eye. Sophia just sat there, listening, her face unreadable. She didn't say anything after a long, tense silence. Just as I was about to break character, she stood up. She walked over to a drawer in the living room console, pulled out a file, and placed it on the coffee table in front of me. My heart leaped. Here it was, the breakup agreement and the check. I picked it up and read the title. My eyes went wide. It wasn't a termination of engagement agreement. It was a lifelong employment contract, spousal edition. Employer, Sophia Sterling. Employee, Ethan Hayes. Term of employment, life. Compensation, 50% of employer's total assets. I was speechless. What is this? I stammered. Sophia walked toward me, her powerful presence making it hard to breathe. She backed me up against a wall, placing a hand next to my head, pinning me there. She leaned in close, her stunning face just inches from mine. Her voice was cold, with a dangerous edge. Thinking of running, Ethan? You've listened to all my secrets, laughed at all my mistakes, and saved my life, and now you think you can just walk away? You're not going anywhere, not for the rest of your life. Wait a minute. What? She just said it. She didn't think it. She said it out loud. I stared at her in shock, and she stared right back. Our eyes locked, and suddenly I understood. This was it. She was laying all her cards on the table. At that exact moment, I heard her voice loud and clear explode in my mind, laced with a mix of annoyance and pure possessiveness. You idiot. You're only just now figuring it out? Too late. The door is locked. I've welded the windows shut. You're never escaping me. For the second time since I'd arrived in this world, my brain shut down. Ethan Hayes, a man whose only ambition was to live a life of leisure, had failed to escape. I went from being Sophia Sterling's simp fiancée to her officially licensed lifetime spouse. Life didn't change all that much. I still spent my days at home trying out new recipes, playing video games, and mentally complaining about bad movies, and Sophia became the happiest CEO in the world. Her favorite part of the day was coming home from work, opening her laptop, and listening to the one-man comedy show playing in my head. Like when I was in the kitchen. Okay, scrambled eggs. Do I add sugar or salt? The eternal culinary war is about to be decided in this very pan. This is so stressful. Screw it, I'll add both. A new era of scrambled eggs begins today. Sophia, reading a report in the living room, would smile to herself. Or when I was watching a cheesy romance movie. Seriously, this kind of toxic, possessive billionaire trope still exists. It's so cringe. If it were me, I'd just cook for her every day, make her gain 20 pounds so she could never leave me. That's how you really trap someone. Sophia would put down her work, walk over, wrap her arms around me from behind, and rest her chin on my shoulder. I'm hungry, she'd whisper. Life was lazy, and it was sweet. I had almost completely forgotten that I was just a character in a book, that this was all a world made of words, until one night. We were curled up on the couch. I was looking at the moon and feeling a little sentimental. Sigh, this life is pretty amazing. But sometimes I miss being single. The freedom, doing whatever I want. It would be nice if she couldn't hear my thoughts sometimes, just for one day, just to have a little mental privacy. It was just a fleeting thought, but the moment it crossed my mind, a completely unfamiliar, cold, and robotic voice echoed in my head. Alert. User strong desire detected. Mind reading block activated. 24 hours. Enjoy the trial. New user. I shot bolt upright on the couch. What's wrong? Sophia asked, startled. I stared at her. Her eyes were clear, pure, and a little confused. The look was gone. That knowing, I heard that look. She really couldn't hear me. I tested it, thinking, Sophia Sterling is a silly goose. She just blinked at me. What are you thinking about so hard? I tried again. Sophia Sterling is the most beautiful woman in the universe. She still looked confused, reaching out to touch my forehead. Are you feeling okay? My inner voice was actually blocked. This wasn't a passive curse I was stuck with, it was a system. This mind-reading thing wasn't a weird side effect of being in a novel. It was a feature, an upgradable, controllable superpower. I looked at Sophia's concerned face and felt the silence of the now dormant robotic voice in my head. A whole new, much larger, and far more ridiculous world seemed to be slowly opening up right in front of me. My peaceful, lazy life was about to get complicated again.